"There's no ticket for you. I'd be embarrassed to be seen with someone like you. Go home before anyone sees you." Those were the exact words my sister-in-law Erica hurled at me in front of the grand concert hall, where our family had gathered for what was supposed to be a beautiful evening of classical music. The tickets had been arranged by her. Everyone in the family had one, except me. She handed them out with a smile, skipping me without a blink, as if I didn't exist. It was humiliating. More than that, it was cruel. I stood there frozen, clinging to my coat as the wind whipped around me. I had come dressed nicely, feeling proud of myself for being included in such a formal family event. I had even practiced a few basic phrases in Italian just in case we met someone from the orchestra. Silly, I know, but I wanted to be part of their world, my husband's world, Greg's world. I'm Erwin Bach. I'm 27 years old, a preschool teacher. My parents run a small restaurant in the countryside. We're not wealthy, but we're kind, hardworking. I grew up around the smell of soup broth and the warmth of regulars who treated my mother's cooking like it was art. I never felt poor, not until I married into Greg's family. Greg is the vice president of a large musical instrument company, the heir to a family that lives and breathes music. His father is the CEO. His mother is a respected pianist who still performs across Europe. Their house has a grand piano in every sitting room, and dinner conversation often involves composers I've only read about in books. From the very beginning, Erica made it clear that she thought I didn't belong. 5 years younger than Greg, she's a senior in music college, already an award-winning pianist. When we first met, she took one look at my simple dress and muttered, "What brand is that? Did you buy it at a gas station?" I remember standing there, cheeks burning, while Greg gently but firmly took my hand. "Erica," he had warned, "be nice." But Erica was never nice. Still, I smiled through every insult, every whispered joke behind my back, every icy stare across the dinner table, because I loved Greg, because his parents, at least on the surface, had welcomed me, and because I believed that if I stayed kind, eventually Erica would grow tired of trying to tear me down. But I was wrong. At the concert hall, she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "It's 100 years too early for commoners like you to sit with us at a classical concert. You're an eyesore. Just disappear." My heart ached. My throat tightened. I felt like I was 10 years old again, being picked last for a team in gym class. I wanted to run, to cry, to vanish. But before I could turn around, something surprising happened. Greg, quiet, kind, usually the peacekeeper, stepped forward. "Then you leave," he said sharply, his voice louder than I'd ever heard. "There's no reason my wife should go home. If you don't like it, Erica, you're the one who should leave." Erica blinked, stunned. My mother-in-law, who had been silent until then, added in a calm, even tone, "Greg is right. I've seen how you treat Erwin. Your heart is far poorer than her upbringing ever was." Erica's mouth dropped open, ready to object, but no one came to her defense. She turned to her fiancé, Ben, who had come along for the concert. "Ben, let's go. This is ridiculous." Ben didn't budge. "I'm staying," he said coldly. "This isn't the woman I thought I was marrying." And just like that, Erica's perfect image began to crumble. But to understand how we got here, you'd have to go back to the beginning, to the day I first met Greg's family. It was after a few months of dating. He had insisted I meet his parents. I was terrified. I knew they were wealthy, cultured, and surrounded by music at every turn. I, on the other hand, had grown up surrounded by the sound of kitchen clatter and karaoke played off YouTube. Still, I wore my best dress, brought homemade cookies, and hoped for the best. To my surprise, his parents were kind. His father was stoic but polite. His mother greeted me with a warm hug and even praised the cookies. And then there was Erica. She looked me up and down and whispered something to Greg, loud enough for me to hear. "Seriously? This is who you brought home?" Greg didn't let it slide. "Enough, Erica." She smirked but said no more. Despite that rough start, our visit went smoothly. My parents later met Greg and adored him. My father offered him homemade sake, and my mother prepared a 10-course feast. Greg couldn't stop smiling. "This is amazing," he said, devouring a bowl of simmered pork belly. "Better than any Michelin restaurant." My parents beamed. It wasn't long before Greg proposed. I said yes. We had a small but lovely ceremony. His parents offered us land on their estate to build a house. I was hesitant at first. Living so close to Erica seemed risky. But Greg promised me everything would be okay. I believed him. The first week we moved in, I was unpacking kitchenware when Erica barged into the house without knocking. "You're really marrying my brother?" she said, arms crossed. "You've got guts, I'll give you that." "I want to get along with you," I said politely. She sneered. "Out of your league doesn't even begin to cover it. You should at least know how to play an instrument if you're going to be part of this family. Oh wait, poor people don't get music lessons, do they?" Greg walked in just as she said that. He didn't yell. He simply said, "Erwin, play her something." I nodded. We walked to the main house where a grand piano stood gleaming in the corner. Erica snorted, "What's she going to play, Twinkle, Twinkle?" I sat down, took a deep breath, and played Liszt, a challenging, dramatic piece I had practiced for years in secret. When I finished, the room was silent. Then came the applause. My father-in-law clapped first. That was professional level. My mother-in-law added, "Clear, emotionally rich. Where did you learn?" Greg explained everything. How I had been fascinated with music since I was a child, how a neighbor had taught me for free, how a kind professor had taken me in as a scholarship student, and how despite winning competitions, I chose to become a preschool teacher because I loved children more than fame. They listened, truly listened. Erica didn't speak. She just stood there, red-faced, her mouth a thin line. From that day on, her hatred grew deeper. She made my life harder. She'd throw things, criticize everything I did, and mock me at every opportunity. But I stayed. I smiled. I continued to play piano and teach my students. And when she crossed the line by breaking the Christmas play props I had prepared, Greg finally snapped. That moment, the moment he stood up to her, was the first time I felt I wasn't fighting this battle alone. And it wouldn't be the last. After the piano performance that had left Erica speechless, life didn't exactly get easier. In fact, it got worse, just in a quieter, more calculated way. Erica stopped with the screaming and sarcasm. She started using silence, exclusion, and whispers behind closed doors. The kind of cruelty that doesn't leave bruises but somehow hurts more. At family dinners, she'd ignore my presence entirely. No eye contact, no response to my greetings. If I brought a dish, she'd say, "Oh, I didn't know we were bringing country food tonight." She always found ways to diminish me. Once I gave my mother-in-law a handmade flower arrangement for her birthday. A mix of seasonal blossoms I'd learned to assemble from a community class. I even used wrapping paper Greg had designed during his college days. She loved it. But Erica? She smirked and said, "I thought that was from a funeral home." I swallowed the sting. I always did. For the sake of family. For Greg. For peace. But peace was never Erica's goal. Then came New Year's Day, when we were all expected to wear formal attire for the family gathering. Greg and I had carefully chosen a classic navy suit for him and a soft cream-colored dress for me. Modest, respectful, elegant. I even wore the pearl earrings his mother had gifted me on our wedding day. When we arrived, Erica glanced at me and immediately burst into laughter. "You look like a department store mannequin from the 80s, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "What are you even wearing?" No one said anything. Not even Greg this time. Later that night, I found myself in the hallway outside the guest room, holding my coat in my hands, debating whether to slip away quietly and call a cab home. That's when Greg found me. "I'm sorry," he said, voice heavy. "I should have defended you." I didn't respond. He took my coat and set it down, wrapping his arms around me. "I'm going to talk to her," he promised. But I knew words weren't enough. The turning point came the day I overheard Erica talking on the phone. I had stopped by the main house to return some sheet music I had borrowed. The door was open, so I stepped inside quietly. Erica was in the sitting room, on the phone, laughing. "No, she doesn't know. Of course not. I didn't give her a ticket. Why would I? She'd just ruin the aesthetic." A pause. "She thinks we're going as a big happy family. Let her show up and get turned away. It'll be hilarious." My heart stopped. She was talking about the upcoming classical concert, the one Greg's mother had mentioned briefly over dinner. I had assumed we were all invited. No one had said otherwise. Apparently, everyone had tickets, except me. Deliberately, cruelly. I backed out of the house as quietly as I could, then walked all the way home without saying a word. That night, I sat on the porch with Greg and told him everything. He was livid. "You're not staying home," he said. "We'll go together." "I don't have a ticket." "I'll find one," he said, "even if I have to buy a seat next to the tuba section." He called his father, explained the situation. His father made a few calls and found an extra ticket someone had canceled last minute, row F center. "Better than hers," Greg said with a smirk. "Not that it matters. I'd sit on the floor if it meant going with you." The day of the concert arrived. I dressed carefully, choosing a deep burgundy dress with a soft shawl. Greg wore his favorite tailored suit, We left the house early and arrived at the hall before the rest of the family. I was nervous. I knew Erica would make a scene. I just didn't know how big. Sure enough, when she arrived and saw me standing near the entrance, she walked straight over, her face twisting into a smirk. "There's no ticket for you," she said, her voice low but vicious. "I'd be embarrassed to be seen with someone like you. Go home before anyone sees you." Greg stepped in before I could say anything. "There's no ticket from you," he said, "but Irwin has her own, a better one." Erica blinked. "I called Dad," he added. "He knows everything." Her mouth dropped open. Just then their parents arrived. "Irwin," my mother-in-law said, smiling warmly, "you look stunning." I blinked back the tears threatening to fall. Erica, flustered and cornered, turned to Ben, her fiancé. "Let's go, this is a joke." But Ben didn't follow. "I'm staying," he said simply, "with people who have dignity." And just like that, Erica turned on her heel and stormed off. Inside the concert hall, I took my seat, row F, center, and looked around at the breathtaking chandeliers, the elegant audience, the shimmering instruments being tuned on stage. I belonged, not because of money, not because of music, but because I knew who I was, because I had endured, and I would continue to rise with grace. The next day, silence hung over the family estate like fog. Erica didn't come home that night. She didn't send a message, not to Greg, not to her parents, not even to Ben, who stayed behind in a guest room after the concert. At breakfast, Greg's mother placed a delicate plate of sliced fruit in front of me. "You looked beautiful last night," she said softly. "Your presence made the evening richer." I smiled shyly. "Thank you for saying that." "I mean it," she replied, pausing with a sad look in her eyes. "I only wish I'd stood up for you sooner." That was the first time she acknowledged the truth out loud, that they had let Erica's behavior go unchecked for far too long. Greg's father didn't say much. He just looked tired, not angry, just weary, like someone who had watched a storm form for years and now had to face the damage. After breakfast, I stepped outside for a bit of air and found Ben sitting on the garden bench, a cup of coffee balanced on his knee. His suit jacket hung loosely over his shoulders, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked younger than his years, less polished, more real. "Can I sit?" I asked. He nodded. We sat in silence for a while. Then he spoke. "I'm sorry." I glanced at him, waiting. "I saw how Erica treated you," he said. "All of it, from the beginning. I thought, if I ignored it, maybe she'd stop. Maybe she'd grow out of it." "She didn't," I said gently. "No," he admitted. "She didn't." He took a slow sip of his coffee. "I loved the version of her I met in college. Confident, talented, brilliant. But over time, that confidence turned into control. That brilliance became bitterness. And I just stood there." I said nothing. It wasn't my place to forgive him, but I appreciated the honesty. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope. "I was going to give this to her after the concert," he said. "But now, I think maybe it belongs to you." I opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a ticket. A second-row seat at a solo recital by a world-renowned pianist Erica had idolized since childhood. "I waited in line for 4 hours to get it," Ben said. "I thought it would be a peace offering, a step toward something better." I held the ticket in my hands, unsure what to say. Ben stood. "I'm leaving today," he said, ending the engagement. I looked up, startled. "I stayed too long in something that wasn't love," he said, "and now I need to go find out who I am without her." He turned to leave but paused. "For what it's worth, I think you saved me, Irwin." Then he walked away. Later that afternoon, Greg received a call from Erica. She wasn't crying. She wasn't apologizing. She was cold, detached. "I'm going abroad," she said. "I've been accepted into a masterclass program in Vienna. I'll be leaving next week." Greg asked if she planned to say goodbye to anyone. She didn't answer. Just ended the call. We stood in the living room, stunned. His mother slowly sat down on the sofa. "Maybe distance will help her," she said quietly. "I hope so," Greg murmured. For the next week, things shifted, lightly, gently. Greg's mother started joining me in the kitchen. She showed me how to make her family's favorite chocolate cake. I taught her how to roll gyoza. We laughed more, talked more. His father asked about my job at the preschool. "You're shaping future musicians," he said. "That's more powerful than any concert." I felt seen, really seen, for the first time in their home. Then something happened I never expected. One of the teachers at my preschool called in sick, and I was asked to cover her shift at the Community Arts Center next door. It was a beginner's piano class for children ages 5 to 8. I said yes without thinking much of it. That afternoon changed everything. I had barely sat down before a little girl tugged my sleeve. "Can you play something pretty?" she asked. I smiled. "Of course." I played a soft, simple piece. Claire de Lune. The children sat silently, wide-eyed. When I finished, they burst into applause, genuine, uninhibited, joyful. One of the parents approached me after class. "Are you the regular teacher?" she asked. "No," I said, "just filling in." She handed me her card. "I run the local music conservatory. We're looking for instructors for our children's program. I think you'd be perfect." I stared at the card in shock. When I told Greg that night, he hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "You see," he whispered, "the music never left you. It was just waiting." A few days later, I found the concert ticket Ben had given me tucked inside a book. The performance was in 2 days. Greg saw it in my hands. "You should go," he said. "I don't know." He took my hand. "Go," he said, "for closure, for yourself." So I did. And what happened at that recital changed me forever. The concert hall was different from the one I had stood in front of that night Erica humiliated me. This one was smaller, more intimate, but no less grand. The red velvet seats, the curved ceiling, the hush of anticipation before the performance. It all stirred something in me. Not fear, not resentment, but awe. I found my seat in the second row. The stage lights dimmed. The pianist entered, greeted by polite applause. As she took her seat and adjusted the bench, I felt a lump form in my throat. She was everything Erica had once wanted to be, disciplined, graceful, fully in command of her art. And yet watching her, I didn't feel envy. I didn't feel less than. I felt inspired. The music began, soft at first, then surging with emotion. It filled the room, swelling like water rising over stone. There were no lyrics, but I could hear a story in every note, of heartbreak, of endurance, of longing, of healing. I closed my eyes. For the first time in a long time, I saw Oliver's face, his laughter, the way he once clapped when I played for him as a baby, as if the piano was magic and I was the magician. I remembered how Erica used to say I didn't belong, but in this moment, surrounded by music, bathed in light, I felt something different. I did belong. Not in Erica's world, in my own. After the concert, I stepped out into the cool evening air, my heart still echoing with melody. I didn't expect to see Ben waiting by the stairs. "You came," I said, surprised. He nodded. "Thought you might need someone to walk with." We didn't talk much, just strolled through the lit cobblestone streets until we reached the station. He turned to me. "Are you going to accept the conservatory offer?" I hadn't told him. I smiled. "I already did." His grin was wide and real. "They're lucky to have you." Before we parted, he handed me a small box. Inside was a silver music note charm on a simple chain. "For the music in you," he said, "the part no one could silence." I swallowed a lump in my throat and whispered, "Thank you." He nodded, then turned and walked into the night, his own path ahead. Months passed. Erica didn't return from Vienna. She sent one email to Greg. It was brief. "I'm not ready to apologize, but I'm not proud of who I've been. Maybe time will help." That was enough, for now. Greg's parents began coming to my student recitals. His mother cried the first time a group of 5-year-olds played canon in D. "You've done something wonderful," she told me. "Something that matters." I didn't need their approval anymore, but it felt nice all the same. One evening, while Greg and I cooked together, he looked over and asked, "Do you remember the first time I heard you play?" I laughed. "Yes, you thought it was a YouTube video." "I didn't believe someone like you could live such a quiet life and carry that kind of music inside." I stirred the pot. "Turns out I can." He leaned in and kissed my cheek. "You carry more than music. You carry light." I turned to him. "That light comes from surviving a lot of darkness." He nodded, "and still choosing love." On the anniversary of the concert, the one I was never supposed to attend, I held my own recital. Not for the elite, not for the rich, for children and their families. I played pieces they requested, some classical, some playful, some completely out of key as tiny fingers learned the feel of real notes for the first time. Near the end, a little girl named Hannah asked if I could play the piece from the recital she saw me attend months ago. I paused. "That piece is hard," she beamed, "but you can do it." I smiled. So I sat at the piano and I played. Not for perfection, not for recognition, for joy. As the final note faded, I looked up and saw Greg in the doorway, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. He mouthed, "Proud of you." I blinked away tears. Because this wasn't the life I was handed. This was the life I chose, the life I fought for, the life I built, one note at a time.